weighing in on the passing of Pope Francis, the Wall Street Journal editorial board writes, in part, Pope Francis was best known for urging concern for the poor in the best Christian tradition. He called for a clergy of shepherds who have the smell of their sheep, that is, priests and nuns who share the suffering of their neighbors. He made support for the weakest among us the rhetorical centerpiece of his papacy. He brought a publican formality and openness to the Vatican. Alas, Pope Francis believed ideologies that keep the poor in poverty. One of those earthly dogmas is radical environmentalism, which isn't about keeping the earth clean for human beings, but keeping the earth for itself and treating man as the enemy. That's among his misguided policy positions, in my view. The statement I mentioned earlier in this piece, he championed the poor while favoring ideas that keep them poor. That is a very succinct description of liberation theology, a tradition, unfortunately, he came from, and really the left in general. In point of fact, while his concern for the poor I take at face value as authentic, our next guest organization has the key insight on this. The Acton Institute, their mantra is good intentions connected to sound economics. The intentions not sufficient in their own right. The outcomes matter too. What a concept. Reverend Robert Sirico is the president and co-founder of the Acton Institute, and he joins us now. Father Sirico, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
I'm delighted to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So you wrote about Pope Francis and his papacy, disruptive. You use words like disruptive and ambiguous. Can you offer more detail?
Well, let me start out by saying that that can be taken as a kind of political or negative assessment of this pontificate, but I think it's just exactly what he set out to do. He said at the beginning of his pontificate he wanted to create a mess, or he encouraged people to create a mess. And there were great ambiguities, in terms of the Pope in theology was conservative. He said, I believe the catechism when he defined homosexual acts, when he talked about women's ordination, when he talked about abortion in very, very strong language, all of those kinds of things, he was indistinguishable from Cardinal Burke, who is kind of the representative of the more orthodox position. Where the ambiguity comes up is in things that he said or gestures that he made or criticisms that he made of various things that leave you kind of in a fog as to what are we doing here? Where do we go from here? That's the question. And that, of course, now is the question that we face in his death. And I think it's a real question, a legitimate one.
Do you think moving forward they're going to be looking for a more conservative pope?
Well, I think it would be hard not to find a more conservative pope than Pope Francis. I mean, I think I'm trying to be very objective and, of course, respectful because he's not even buried yet to assess a legacy this soon on. But I think just from the facts on the ground, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody, at least temperamentally or in terms of gesture, who would be as radical as Francis was. So I think anybody will come in and want to kind of calm things down a bit and get people talking to one another again.
And when you talk about Pope Francis defining what his pontificate would be as intending to make a mess, what did he mean by that, and how did it play out?
I think what he probably meant by that was, as far as I can see, that things were static. He was presiding over a church that is seen to be by many people in society anachronistic, old-fashioned, irrelevant to the moment, and that he thought if we can just kind of upset things, then what we can do is reassemble them in a way that's more authentic to the gospel and more pertinent to the debates today. I think that's the best interpretation that I can give to his intentions.
And the result of that approach?
Well, I mean, we only have to look at what has happened in the church. There's been a real polarization that I think, and people are not talking to one another as they should be. I mean, and this is reflected not just in the church, but of society as a whole, where we just kind of throw talking points at one another and not listen and attempt to really give an account of what the other person is saying, even though you don't believe in it. So I think in that regard, in regard to confronting the financial scandals in the church, in terms of confronting the sexual scandals in the church, all of this has not improved in the 12 years of this pontificate. And I think another pope will want to come in and deal with some of these questions in a very serious way.
Is there the statement that you made just now that those serious matters, the situation has not improved in 12 years? Is that a feeling that's held by a majority of the cardinals, do you think?
I would think so. I mean, how could you not say? I mean, how could there's still a trial going on over the Vatican financial scandals? You had a cardinal who was appointed and then immediately dismissed from being a cardinal. He won't be sitting in this conclave, who was found guilty by a Vatican court. How can you not say that there aren't financial scandals? And my Lord, do we have 3 hours to talk about the sexual stuff? I'm not talking about the pedophilia even. I'm just talking about among bishops that has emerged. Now, of course, this is a large organization, over 1 billion people in the world. You're going to have this kind of thing. The question is not whether you have it, but what you're going to do about it. How do you confront it?
Well, right, and I asked that not as a Catholic, but also as an Illinoisan, because
Sure.
I mean, we're very used to in Illinois the sort of response from institutions to virtual disintegration as something like it's this sort of a three-pronged response. It's not as bad as you think. There's plenty of blame to go around, and we're working on it. And things never improve, but we continue to get that response because it serves the interests of the institutionalists.
And that is the bureaucratic mentality that you see it in the church, you see it in the school system, you see it in the government, you see it in business. And this was the hope that I think the cardinals had when they elected Pope Francis in 2013. That he was going to really come in and upset the apple cart and do things differently. He did upset an apple cart, but I'm not sure it was the right apple cart.
Mm-hmm. And so, how optimistic are you about? I mean, someone that is more conservative. The way we talk about these things is through the lens of politics, but that's not really what I mean. Yeah. I mean more traditionalist in terms of really re-energizing the church and restoring its if not primacy, its importance in terms of the preservation and advancement of Western civilization. I mean, that's its reputation, exactly. Social standing, all those things. Is there? Do you feel that there is energy moving in that direction?
Well, certainly on the level of lay people, the people who are coming into the church, in France alone, 10,000 people were received into the church. This is France, where the church is dead, it's been persecuted, and all the rest of it. So yes, in the United States at least, all of the studies have been done of the seminarians in the last 10 years is that they all tend toward a more traditional approach. Now, in saying that, I don't think it would be wise for a very sharp turn to the right so that it becomes a polarization on the other side. Mm-hmm. I think what's needed is a period of letting dust settle, opening up real, authentic conversations with people of differing points of view on the basis of what the church has always said about itself. And I think you find no better document to outline that than the Catechism of the Catholic Church. I mean, if we're not in favor of the Catechism of the Catholic Church, why are we Catholic? The attraction of this pontificate, to a very great extent, I won't say exclusively, but to a very great extent, was for those outside of the church. Now, it is important that we, attract, but we attract them to the church, not just to affirm them in their sin or their alienation from God.
Yeah, I mean, that was attendant to so much of the fanfare around Pope Francis. It was basically, the good news is the Pope's not Catholic.
Well, yeah, I mean, there were some very cruel things like that. I think, I just have to say this as a thinker and an honest person, but also as a Catholic priest. The Pope is Catholic. He was Catholic. Mm-hmm. And I disagreed, and, you read my stuff. I disagreed with him on a variety of things. But I'm in no position to judge his soul. I mean, to borrow a phrase, who am I to judge?
Yeah, well, his approach to the environment earned him the moniker the Green Pope.
Yeah. But, if you look at it and you really read the stuff, it was a bit more to the left. But when you compare it to Benedict and John Paul II, it wasn't that much more. I mean, he didn't. I think he made a lot of mistakes in his analysis. But I have to say the same thing about John Paul and Benedict, that some of their economic or even environmental policies I wouldn't have gone along with. I think people have bought too much into the radical environmentalist agenda with good intentions, because we all want a clean planet. We all want a healthy home to live in.
We've got to connect it to that sound economics that you do at the Acton Institute.
Yes. And the reason for that is that economics tells us the truth of things. When it's free economics, the price of things tells us what is in short supply, what is in abundant supply, and then we can calculate based on that how to conserve resources. But when you have this kind of bureaucracy that distorts the pricing, that distorts competition or limits it or burdens businesses with regulations that are unnecessary, then you have chaos and you have impoverishment. And we've seen that time and time again everywhere. These various forms of heavy government planning or socialism has been tried.
I know you're in Rome. Are you whipping the vote for anybody in particular?
I'm in no position to whip the vote. If you ask me, the question of who I'd like to see as Pope and who I think has a good chance of becoming Pope are two different questions.
Okay. Who would you like to see?
I'd like to see probably Pizzaballa, who is the patriarch in Jerusalem. This man is 60 years old, an Italian, and has negotiated some of the most intricate and volatile situations in that context in the Middle East. And I think that Cardinal Pizzaballa could help us in the church bring those talents back into the church itself, the institutional church. I think, of course, I love Cardinal Burke, I love Cardinal Sarah, but I'm not sure that the other cardinals see in them the virtues that I would see in them. And there are other cardinals that one could mention, but that gets playing in-house, politics.
And if you were handicapping it, who do you think is the front runner?
The Secretary of State always is the front runner, just by virtue of his position. He's the second in charge. This is Cardinal Parolin. I think the problem with Parolin is going to be his China policy and the policy toward religious persecution. This is a reversion back to an older osteopolitique. Let's live with them. Let's make the best of the situation. Let's not overly criticize them. John Paul let that Secretary of State in his time go within a year, and he took it over himself and was far more confrontational, and the result was the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Yeah,
I know a lot of factors went into that. So I think Parolin has this burden. He has the China policy and this osteopolitique, they call it, that will not please, certainly not please the people who are suffering under the hand of socialist dictatorships.
He is Reverend Robert Sirico, co-founder and president emeritus of the Acton Institute, author of a number of books, including a very good one, if you want a very readable treatise on economics, Defending the Free Market, the Moral Case for a Free Economy. Father Sirico, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, folks, I just can't help thinking